it's Sharna back again here with a holiday video for you featuring some Pretty Pink Posh, some Mama Elephant for the sentiments. This is the tiny holiday sentiments set, and I used that die for the background. So I'm going to use some Neenah 80-pound cardstock in my Misty here, and I picked out a few of the larger floral images from my Pretty Pink Posh set. This is the poinsettias and a couple of leaves. I'm just going to stamp these out here in my Lawn Fawn jet black ink. It's good for Copic coloring as well as watercoloring, and I like to use it pretty much all the time. So I'm going to stamp it out a few times just so it's nice and black before I go ahead and get the images cut out. So I'm going to go ahead and clean off my stamps with my stamp chamois, and also some Ultra Clean by Hero Arts. This just gets that really dark ink off, and you can see even after the stamp chamois I'm still getting some ink left over on my stamps, and this just makes them nice and clean again and not stained, because I'm a little paranoid. I ruined some stamps back when I first started with some StazOn ink, and after a while they stopped stamping. So now I just like to make sure they're extra clean. So I'm going to go ahead and Copic color these images. Those are all the Copics. I will go ahead and have them listed down below if you're interested in the exact combos and can't see them listed clearly here. I do try and show them before I start. So I just started with my E40 markers. I believe that's E43 and E41. And I'm just going around in all the nooks and crannies here with my darker E43 marker. And then I'm going to blend it out with my E40. And then I'm going to go back over that again with my 0 colorless blender marker. And that's just so that the petals appear mostly white. I was going for a white poinsettia look. And I use the browns just because they're a little bit warmer than my warm gray markers, and I felt that this was more true to the off-white color that you get when you have a white poinsettia. So I'm just filling in the rest of the nooks and crannies with the darkest E43 marker. And that's just because I don't like blending in a large area. I tend to do a couple petals at a time and then blend out, and then do the next set and blend out, etc., depending on how large my image is. And these Pretty Pink Posh Poinsettias are a fairly good size. So I did do a couple petals at a time here. So I'm just scrubbing a little bit at the E43. There's a little bit of a jump between the E43 and the E40 marker, but since there's so much colorless blender in the E40 marker, it does eat away at that E43. So you do get a good blend, even though there's quite a bit of difference between the two colors initially. And then it's fairly easy to blend that E40 into the white so that you just have a nice balance between the contrast of the E43 to the white outer petals. So then I went in and I'm just doing the centers, which you probably won't see at the end actually, but I did use the YR24 and the YR21 just to fill those in. I'm going to do something later on, so that will be covered up. But for the leaves I used the YG67 here, and I'm just making the darkest part the center of the leaf where it would be, the main vein would be, and flicking towards the edge. And then I'm going to go blend that out with the YG63. I just felt that this green combo went really well with the browns of the flowers. It's a little bit more muted. And that last color is the YG61, I believe. And again, there's a lot of colorless blender, so it's going to knock that color way back too and really lighten it up on a whole. So those are the images I'm going to use. But now I'm going to work on the background. I used some Distress watercolor paper and some Distress ink, just regular Distress ink in a mini cube. This one happens to be pumice stone. And I'm going to lightly mist that with water. I'm going to go ahead and use the smooth side of the paper here. I just prefer that look. Your ink's going to move more on the other rough surface, but it moves pretty well on either one. So I've got my initial layer down and I don't feel like it's dark enough, so I'm going to add a little bit more ink to that. And I love the ink smushing, I like how it looks, but I especially like it when you layer it up. So I'm going to dry this bottom layer, and they do reactivate a little bit when you add the next layer in, which helps them blend together, but you do get a nice layered look. And I concentrated that all up in the corner because that's where I want my images to sit. So I'm going to go ahead and add that next layer here. I'm just holding that down a second so it can absorb a little bit more of the ink. And I'm going to dry that. And it really doesn't matter that my paper's warped, one, because I'm going to die cut it, and two, because once I glue it down, I'm going to put something heavy on top and it's just going to smooth the whole thing out. And I tend to use 110 pound for my card base, and once the paper's adhered to that, especially if you adhere it flat, it's going to hold up real nicely. So I'm just deciding on my basic layout right here and deciding if I need any more ink, and if that ink comes down far enough. For me, I just want to ground my images. So I like that, so I'm going to clean that up. That's my Tonic Easy Clean Matte, by the way. I just cut it down so that I have a small piece. And now I'm going to use some Nuvo crystal drops. And this gold color is pale gold, and it doesn't move as much as the regular Nuvo drops. It does tend to hold its shape, so I did put a couple dots down at once. I'm going to do the same thing for the smaller flower, and eventually I'm going to cluster enough of them on here so that it fills the whole center of the flower. And because they do hold their shape, I just tap a little bit because there are some pretty defined points on that, but they'll settle in. So now I'm going to die cut the walkie stitched border in the background there. And I've gone ahead and added some glitter here. These two were done previously, so just adding more to this flower here. It's hard to show on camera, but it's super sparkly in real life. This is the Nuvo shimmer pens. The gloss is more iridescent, but I do use the other one as well. The Wink of Stella, just depends. And my favorite glue with the Lawn Fawn glue tube. It comes out really well and easily. And using liquid glue just allows me time to shift my background around if I don't put it on straight, and I never put it on straight. And I'm going to use my Misty just because it's got a little foam pad on the back, so it's nice and flat. And I let that sit for like a couple minutes, even though I cut it out of the editing. And I have a bunch of these sentiments already heat embossed on some black one paper. I did this a while ago when I started my holiday card making, and I just keep them on hand because they're great little sentiment sets with so many different options, and they go with so many of my cards, and it's just been great to be able to grab and go. So now I'm going to fiddle around with my layout here. And again, that's the Mama Elephant Holiday Messages set. I think they're great. And this flower is going to be the only thing I pop up, mostly because I want it to go through the mail fairly easily. And when I continued to make these the rest of the week, I actually glued all of them flat to the cards. So if you're going to mail a bunch of Christmas cards, I recommend not adding dimension, just because when it goes through the machine, it can get really bent. And I speak from personal experience, just from receiving cards from friends and sending my cards, that the more dimension you add, it's gonna bend right where the foam ends. So you're gonna have all these creases in your paper. And that makes me really sad when I get my favorite cards and they're all bent. So now I either send it in a bubble mailer or I just, like I said, glue it straight to the card. And like I said, I can't ever put anything on straight, so I'm going to get my T-square here, just so I can butt the sentiment strip right up against it. And now I'm going to add some sparkling clear sequins just as a final bit of embellishment. And honestly, again, I cannot resist sequins like on every card. I thought I would get over it, but here we are like 5 years later and I'm still using sequins. You would not believe my sequin collection right now. It's a little ridiculous how many boxes of sequins I have. And that's my jewel picker. It's got glue all over it, so it's not very sticky anymore. I really need to clean it off. And honestly, you can just wipe it clean on like a baby wipe or something, and then it's sticky again. I really like using it because I can't see under my fingers with these little tiny sequins. Are really hard for me to put down. And I end up missing the glue if I try and do it with my finger. And I'm just using the Lawn Fawn glue with that as well. I haven't had any issues with sequins falling off with this. The multimedia works as well too. This was just out on my desk because I like to adhere my backgrounds with it. So that pretty much finishes up the card for today. And I hope you guys enjoyed. I'll see you soon. Bye.